Hi, my name is Patricia Anlawat and I am from BS Ed 2B. And today I am going to discuss about designing and development teaching learning materials. And if we say teaching learning materials, these are the materials that an instructor or a teacher may use to provide information to the students or to the learners. So these are the visual aids that our students that could make use for their basis of our discussions, and these materials during learning, this also helps them to understand better. It helps them to understand more as to us aspiring teachers what we specifically referring to. And of course, I am going to tell you also as to how to come up or how we are going to keep these materials for future references also, because we are going to sustain and make this available for future use. Of course, as an instructor or teacher, we should make sure that the materials that we are making today is or must be available also for future use. So let's proceed to the first one, because actually we have three. First is collection, preparation, and maintenance. And I am going to discuss with you the collection. So we proceed to collection. It is the first and foremost step in the preparation of any teaching learning materials or any project. So for us teachers or instructor to come up or to have an output of a material, we need first to prepare. And this is the first step, which is collection. So what is collection means? Of course, as an instructor, it is very common for us to deal different students, which means that different students have different personalities. They have differences in terms of culture, religion, and beliefs. And we, aspiring teachers, we must take accountable on their differences. So we must have to collect informations and data as to what teaching methods or what materials they most prefer. So for example, let's compare this to on making a research, because of course the first step on making a research is to create an exam. To provide a title, and the next step on that is to, of course, gather a data or to collect a data. So for us to know our main goal or main objective, we must first collect data from our potential respondents. So example, we have a respondents of students with disability. So we have to gather data as to what they feel that they are special. They are students with these disabilities. So with regards on that, as we get an answer or as we gather an information or a data, we, researcher or the teachers, are already knowing what is our objectives are or what is our main goal on that research. So just like on the school setting, we need to know or we need to collect information from our students, where they're coming from, what are their capabilities, what are their weaknesses and strengths. We need to collect all those information for us to know, teachers, where to assess and where what kind of teaching method we are going to provide to them for them to learn, because it is very important that we must depend on the capability or the ability of our students. We must center their preferences. We must focus on their preferences for them to learn. So that is our first step. collecting data from our students for us to know where to assess and what type of material we're going to use for them to learn better. So let's proceed to next. Next is preparation. In the second step, it is necessary to ensure that they comprise of all the points that are relevant to the concepts. So on the second step, preparation, this is already the time that we must prepare what kind or type of materials we are going to use. So since we already have the data, we need to decide or assess whether what type of materials we're going to use. Example, if we have students that are coming from provinces and there are also half of our students coming from cities, we must decide whether what materials we should use, whether we use the traditional ones where we provided visual aids using cartulinas, Manila papers, or we provide these digital use of materials using technology where we could research articles or provide PowerPoints for our lessons. Of course, given the fact that we have a half of students who are coming from provinces, they are most likely not introduced to technologies, to digitals. Whereas the one who coming from the cities, they are already advanced and introduced to the digital or technologies using in teaching or in learning. So as a teacher, I have to decide. I have to make use some time on the traditional one using cartulinas and Manila papers, and sometimes I have to use PowerPoints and other digital online resources to provide them lessons. And it also helps to those students who are coming from provinces to introduce themselves to technologies. And so that when time comes, they already know how to navigate and how to use technologies. Because it is undeniable that in the near future, we're going to transform fully using technologies in learnings. So the next thing, since we already decided what materials we're going to use, let's say we are going to use the traditional ones where we make use of cartulinas and Manila papers, we must sure that we are going to maintain that. So that is our third step, which is maintenance. It means that it is vital to maintain teaching learning materials for future use. Because of course, as a teacher, it is not necessary that we are going to create materials every day for our everyday use. Of course, we can sustain and maintain that specific materials we use today on the future, on the next years for our next generation of students. So we have to make sure that the visual aid that we are going to use is durable. Or as a teacher, if you are going to use it in the future, you can make it wrap on a plastic cover so that it is really sure that it will not get destroyed for everyday use and for us to make use of that on the near future. Another example is using flashcards. It is very common to an instructor to provide flashcards, especially when you are a math teacher. It is very common that we are going to provide those flashcards to our students for them to understand better what we are referring to during discussions. So using flashcards, it is very important that we are going to wrap that certain paper or certain card, because once a paper is protected by a plastic cover or plastics, it would be it will long last. So in that way, we can use that on the next batch of our students, on the next generation of our students, on the next school years. Because actually, through this way, it saves time and energy for students, or I mean for the instructor, especially that instructor are very busy doing lesson plans for teaching every day to the students. So if we will going to adopt the one-time used materials, it would really waste the time of us instead of making other tasks. We are repeating making visual aids every day for our educational use, for our discussions use. So instead of making it every day, make use of it for future references by taking care of it, by maintaining its durability for your visual aids or material to long last. Another example, if you are going to use a online resources, it is really introduced to a long time storage, since we have used our laptops and phones, that if you're not going to delete it on your devices, on your digital devices, it will not going to disappear. So it will store at your phone at a very very long time, and you can actually retrieve it once you have been deleted it. So the difference between the traditional use of materials and the digital use of materials has a differences, but both are effective.